I remember that because I was actually throwing a log in a fireplace and lighting up Marlboro, and then I had some stuff in the frying pan.
Well, obviously a big testament to the reason you guys are going so strong is you and bassist Dee Dee Verney are original members back in 1985. The first album, Feel the Fire, came out. What's the secret to your guys' relationship and friendship to keep this going 25 years later?
Well, I think, you put the person first. It's just that obvious, and then everything else kind of takes care of itself, as in any relationship. I mean, my relationship at home with my wife, if she's first, then it becomes really easy with everything else. Everything else kind of follows suit, and then the relationship itself kind of thrives. I think that with Dee Dee and myself, it's obviously put the guy first, Hey man, whatever you need. What do you need? Well, I can't do that because of this. I know a lot of bands who are like, that's bullshit. But our relationship's been built on, hey, I'm bringing the kids out in the bus. Okay, we'll keep it clean. Or hey, I can't do those shows during that time because we have a family event. And that, I think if you have that understanding, both sides, then the band just follows suit. I mean, it just becomes easier. It's never really a chore. It just becomes a kind of a common goal that the two of us have over this amount of time to say, hey, we actually had a business. We avoided manual labor for a fucking quarter century, which is awesome. Obviously you pay your dues out the road, but it's not, it's not this awful life. It's, you'll talk to guys. I mean, we're coming down to the end of the tour, so sure, some guys want to go home and see the kiddies, but it's not, oh, this sucks and that sucks and I don't want to. This is, I don't want to be selling used cars, It's not for me.
Yeah. Well, you guys survived the grunge movement of the 90s, kept constantly putting out albums, and you survived a couple of harrowing experiences. For those who don't know, Blitz had nose cancer in '98 and suffered a stroke in Germany on stage in 2002, I believe, which I think I read somewhere that was categorized as a minor stroke. Is there any such thing as a minor stroke?
There actually is. I mean, and the beauty of a stroke is you forget everything afterwards. I mean, you can dump all these people you don't want to be talking to anymore. How'd you get my email and who are you? Send. Minor stroke is called a TIA. It's all it is it's just a light switch goes on and off, and it turns out I was predisposed to it. My mother's been having them when we were kids, as young as me being a preteen, and it was always classified by my mother and my father as, Mom had an episode, and it was she's probably had half a dozen in her life, but they're just, the lights go out for a second. I did more damage in that stroke falling down that flight of stairs than anything else, but they because I didn't know what was happening to me. If I knew, I would have just taken a knee and just fallen over, and somebody would have picked me up, and I would have been fine, an hour later. But it's just called the TIA, and there's many people who have them. It's usually genetic disposition, and that's how it affected me.
Okay. And on top of surviving all that stuff, you also survived some pretty critical critique from the one and only Beavis and Butthead back in the day from the Hello from the Gutter video. But obviously, as you people can tell, Blitz has a hell of a sense of humor. So back then when that happened, were you guys upset about it, or did you just take it with a grain of salt?
We were brought up by this great management in New York. They were never the biggest, but they were really personal. They were called Loud and Proud. They had us. They had a band called White Lion, which had great success in the more opening in arenas and more pop kind of metal, and a few other bands. Eric Gales they had, and a band called Taiketo, and they did some great work, and they schooled us really well with regard to publicity and understanding what's good and what's not good, and not being thin-skinned. I mean, I think not being thin-skinned is probably part of our personalities. If I let you get to me, then you got to me. If I let it bounce off, it's it really becomes less satisfactory to those who are trying to poke at us. So we looked at it as actually pretty good kind of publicity to be included in that, because the great thing about it was they never made fun of anybody who was small. Right? So it actually elevated us to some degree, in the minds of other people. They're not gonna sit there and Beavis and Butthead, a band that is inconsequential. So obviously we had a position in the metal scene that was, a good position. So with regard to it, it never really bothered me. I was kind of got a kick out of it.
Now, as much as we love singers such as Gene Simmons, James Hetfield, and Metallica, they're also noted for, they have a tendency to forget their lyrics when they perform live, and it's excusable. I mean, they've got so much backlog, you can't remember every word of every song. night in and night out. Do you have any personal embarrassing moments of forgetting lyrics on stage?
With those two, it's age. I had a stroke.
Perfect excuse right there. Perfect reason.
I've occasionally drawn a blank. It's usually in... I know when the circumstances are, when it's going to happen. And it only happens really rarely, and it's usually I'll flip a verse. I won't necessarily forget the lyric. I'll just say, oh, wrong spot. Right. And it's kind of hard to get back once you're rolling. But it's usually when the place we're playing is ultra hot, and you're trying to find air. I mean, the singer's got to have air. If the balloon is always full, then the head is clear. Yeah. But if the balloon's not full, the head starts getting a little dizzy like that. So that's the only times it's ever happened to me. And I would probably get counted on one hand.
Yeah.
You know.